or with something you want to do. Okay, I think we can start. Let's see if this works. Yes. So, where am I? I am Frédéric Descamps. I'm local. I'm from Belgium, so this is why I'm often here. You can follow me on Twitter as LeFred, so if you have any question, just ask me. I'm quite old using MySQL. I started with MySQL 3.20. I was thinking it was 3.23, but it was 3.20. I found the CD at home. Yes, a CD for people who don't know what it is. Before there was a program in it, and before that was floppy. I also knew the floppy. So as I said, I live in Belgium, and I have a blog where you can find a lot of information, mostly related to MySQL. So today I'm going to talk about the component infrastructure. I'm very sorry, usually we are in a very dark room where, and I changed my slide to be dark slides, but to make it to see them very well, but it seems not okay. So we will see that if you want to modify MySQL, you have different ways. Creating a storage engine. That's one way to modify MySQL. I want to have my own storage engine to store the data like I want. I want to create a plugin. Next session is about that, right, Vinicius? And or by creating a component. We at MySQL, we encourage you to use this component infrastructure if you want to extend MySQL over the plugin, for example. It's very, very not easy to read for you, sorry. So what is this MySQL component infrastructure? So it's a modular design for the MySQL server that will allow the developers to extend the server, like I said earlier, right, in a different way, and such adding support for new function, new performance schema table, new status variable, new system variable, all that kind of stuff that you want to extend to MySQL, you will be able to use the component infrastructure to do that. And so what does it mean? It means that the server will provide you services that you can use to extend MySQL. And there is, you don't see it very well here, but there is a component service inventory page. The URL is here. Yes, you will have the slide online, so you can read them and copy the URL. And something very nice is that this component infrastructure is, enhancing all the time. Right? So, for example, in MySQL 8.28, we had 137 services defined that you could use. And in 8.32, it's already 162 services. So if there is something you would like to do and you don't know how to do it, it's something you can ask us. I don't say it's guaranteed that you will have it in the next version, but it's something we are doing. We try to improve. And internally, it's the same. So when one of the team needs something extra, one of the team create now services that we can use to make it more modular like that. So why do we need to use this MySQL component, right? It's because the subsystem of these components is designed because there are some issues with the plugins, right? So like for example, the plugin can only talk to the server and not with other plugins. Here, with components, you could have some components talking to other components. That's something possible. The plugins, they have access to the server symbols, and they can call them directly, but not really encapsulation. And there are some, we were discussing that it is even possible maybe to create a component and compile it and then load it for another version of it. But yeah, this is not something I would recommend to do, but it's possible, right? And you can also create these dependencies between components, which is very nice. So we're going to create a component together. Well, I will do it, but so you can see how it works, right? And try to see my plan is to show you that it's not complicated and that you will be able to create your own component. So first thing, and this is for me, I think, one of the most difficult part when we want to extend MySQL is, oh, cool, I want to extend it, but what will I do? And sometimes on Slack or on forums, I have people say, oh, I'm a young developer, I would like to help MySQL community. Oh, yes. What? Yes, I need to send it to you, yes. Yeah, but why not? But I will do so. But people say sometimes, oh, I am learning C++, or I want to be in the MySQL community, I want to create something, and what could I do? And that's the plan, is to, you know, like Colin was telling earlier, we don't have like bugs with like a list of features that we ask community to do. It's more that the community wants to enhance something, fix something, they will do it, right? And so here, the most complicated is what will I do, how will I extend to your needs. So this is what we're going to define. So the first thing is that to be able to use what we're going to use, I want to have a specific privilege. So not everybody will be able to use the extension we're going to do. And I decided to use the sensitive variables observer privilege that was added in 8.29. So you can also, if you want, create a new privilege for what you are doing. I've made, I don't know if you have seen, I create a component in 13 blog posts, was covering a lot of things to do it, and one of them was to create a privilege and use that privilege. Then we're going to read a value of some predefined variables on the server, and let's say extract the path of it, and then create a performance schema table with the path that we extracted from this variable, and see if there is free space and how many space has been used on this storage that related to the path. So it's a simple, but it can be very useful that you don't need to have access as a DBA to the file system to check that. So to be able to do this, we will need, of course, to use several services that are to get the information from the privileges, so the security of the threads, to need to have access to the performance schema table to create one, to create different fields. Like here, we're going to use the table, but we want to have some begin and stuff like that. We also need to have a log built in to create error messages. We need to send message to the user. For example, oh, you don't have privilege to access this table, so we need to subscribe and to use all these services to do that. Yes?
Are these predefined functions that we can use?
These are services. So, and I will show you how to do that. So you use these services and then you call them and you get the answer. And it's much easier than on the plugin, for example.
Is there a list in documentation of services?
Yes. So the URL I was showing you earlier, it's the list of all the components that you can use and how to use them. So, so which variable are we going to check? So if you're a MySQL DBA, you need how many variables define a path that you need to check? Do you have an ID? 1, 2, 3, more, less? It's a quiz. It's a lot, and more and more. So for example, we have log bin base name. We should put the binary logs, we can put them somewhere. The data dir, hopefully you know what it means. It is where the data will be. Temp dir, InnoDB undo directory, InnoDB data home dir. So all these can be different paths at a different part that we can store data, right? So we will need, I will use here a vector of the string, and I will put all these variables in it. This is predefined, because I know that this can be, if there is some value in these variables, I will check that. Of course, if you want, you can extend that and create, for example, a variable where you will put the name of the variables to list. It's possible. It's just depending what you want to do that. And this is, for example, all you want to register a new variable. For example, this variable to parse, I called, right? this is how you call the MySQL service component sys variable register, and you register your variable. Okay. So let's code. We are in a hacker conference, right? So our component will look like this. So we will, in the MySQL server source directory, there is a component folder, and in that folder I will create my disk size component. So it's another folder. I will have a CMake list, and then a disk size CC, disk size.header, and a disk size PFS, where I put the stuff for performance schema. If we have time, and I think we may have, I will just show you the content of the file, but before I will show you what we have in this, some part of it, how to use it. So for example, if you want to write in the error log, all our component needs to have a tag. So I don't know if this will work. Seems not. Oh, where is it? Ah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's with the, yeah. Man, I need to be very slow. Very slow. Yeah. You see here? Yeah, it's not that useful. You say log component tag, and it's disk size. So every error message that I will create will have this disk size tag in it. So I will require a service place. So I need to use the log built-ins, log built-in strings, because I want to send strings, right? And this is the service type I will gonna use, and I'm defining here. And then, for example, when I will initialize my component, right? I will here call this and initialize the log objects. And when I just do log component error, which type of error it is? Can it be a warning? Here it's information level, print message, initializing. Just so every time I will load the plugin, the component, I will have this. So this is how we do it. It's very easy. So this is some code that you will reuse all the time, and then in your component, this is the message if you want to print an error message. So usually it's much more easy than in a plugin. To check a privilege, so I create here a function have required privilege, right? And I will send the THD. So, and also to get the context, to get the security context of THD, all that are services. And then we check, okay, do we have access to this privilege? And if not, I will say, I will print an error. If it's okay, we can continue. So here we check the privilege. So this is how we do it, and it's quite very easy to do all that kind of stuff like this. And for example, if you want to access a global variable, it's also, again, get the variable from sys variable register, get the variable, put the name of the variable, and you will get the data out of it. So this is how it works, and it's quite very easy, and you can extend that. Like I said, there is 161 services to create performance schema table, to get information for plenty of stuff. So it is very, very easy. So how does it look like when we run this component, right? So the first thing we do, if you can read it, we install the component. So we do install component and then file component disk size. By default, the components, they start with the name component underscore, but you can change that if you want. And as you can see, it's okay. It means it has been loaded, right? If we check in the error log, because remember, we were printing, initializing when we were loading the component, we will see, because in MySQL 8, the error log is also part of performance schema table, so you don't need to go tail a file. We can see that, okay, component disk size reported, initializing, component disk size reported, performance schema table has been registered successfully. So all that information comes from the component, and you can find it in the error log. So that's the first thing. We were happy because we were able to load the component, and we see that in error log, the component is written. And then we can see also here to use it really. So we do select star from performance schema disk size, which is the table, the performance schema table we created, and it gives us all the data, the directory or the path, from which variable it comes from, right? And the free size and the total size in bytes from it. So this is quite very useful. So you can check without having to, after you can do whatever you want with this information, but it was to show something relevant and not just a hello world to you guys. I think this is more useful. And for example, yeah, you can display, or you can play with the new function like the format bytes and stuff, and we can see here the free size, total size, how many % are used in the on the disk, depending where you want to check. What do you see here is that everything points on the same SSD on my laptop, and this is why you have always the same numbers, because at the end it's only the same disk. But if you use different disks, you will have different values here. The error, like I said earlier, I was using, we were using this specific privilege. So here I'm using another user, which is called Resto. I was for Docstore. We were discussing about Docstore earlier. So I want to check in the performance schema table with that user, and you can see that user doesn't have the privilege we want. He says, okay, this select is denied because the user cannot, so I don't give access to the performance schema table to everybody, just some specific user. So some information about this, the MySQL components, right? It is, you can see which are the components that are loaded. So you do select star from MySQL component. So there is a system table called component, and you can see which are the component loaded, and sometimes a component can be part of a group, and then you will see it if they are on the same group or not, which is not the case here. But you can see here I have several. So the query attribute is a component, for example, and then other component that I'm playing with on my system, like UUID, V7, and stuff like that, that you can create if you want. Where are these components on the disk? It's on the plugin there, same as the plugins. So you will see where the plugins are. You have also the components there, and by default, the names start with component. So the disk size we just created, it's here, component disk size, right? And you can see there are several components already in MySQL by default, because we are also using our own infrastructure in MySQL. So some question that I've heard about the component is that is it that when we load a component, after a restart of the server, what happened with that component? So all the component will be reloaded again, in fact. So if you install the component, when you restart, it will be installed. So there is no configuration in MyCNF. You need to load it first, and then it will stay loaded. Meaning that if I remove the component that was installed, because I like to suffer, right? And what will happen? In fact, you will have a message that says, oh, this component, for example, cannot be opened, and there is an issue. But that's the only thing. It won't block the server. It won't crash. It will just tell you, okay, this is not there, and it won't be available for you. So if you are interested, for example, to see the code of the full code of the component, it's on GitHub. So on my GitHub, MySQL component disk size, so you can find it. And also now, it's your turn. Please show me what you can do and what you can invent and what you can bring to MySQL, because I think this is the component infrastructure is very something cool that you can use to let's say to add features to MySQL. And I hope that Vinicius, you will change your next talk to a component for the next year and not as a plugin, right? So thank you very much for this. Share your love to MySQL on the social media. Join us on the community Slack, so where plenty of people are there to answer questions from development, consulting, plenty of people from around the world not working for MySQL, but in the MySQL community are also there to answer you. Do you have questions?